Okay, so continuing on from the last video, we're now going to start the nesting families portion of the assignment. So I'm just going to read off from the first line they have here on page 24. So they say, to make more complex forms, you will often need to model it in pieces. Break a large item into smaller parts, model each as a separate family, and then pull them all together in a single host family. This is referred to as nesting families. So that's basically what I explained previously. Whenever we're doing something really complicated like this with a lot of parameters and moving parts, we're going to want to separate them into individual components, which are their own individual families, and then we're bringing all those separate families together into a single family, and that's going to be our complex family. But basically, it's made up of a bunch of nested components. All right, so we're going to start off here on step 1, and this is first reopening our shelf family file. So I'm going to go up here to File, and then it should be listed under your recent files. So I'm just going to click on Shelf right here and reopen that. So there we go. You can see my shelf, and I have my bracket. All right, so next you want to toggle back to your bracket family like I just did. And then we want to click on Load into Project and Close. The project we're going to be selecting is the shelf. So uncheck Sandbox and click on Shelf. And we're loading the shelf now into the we're loading the bracket now into the shelf family. So now let's go ahead and go to our reference level view under floor plans. And we're going to be placing an instance of the bracket into the reference level. So to do that, go to the Create tab, and then we're going to go to Component. And then this will allow us to place an instance of our bracket here within the floor plan view. So I'm going to just, let's see. I'm just going to place one here on the left side, centered, like so. And then I'm going to use my Align tool to align it. So I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to select the bracket, and then I want to find my Align tool right there. And I'm going to click on the back reference plane, and then I'm going to zoom in really close and click Tab until I get just the back of the bracket right there, and I'm going to lock that to the back side of the shelf. And we're going to make sure that that's locked. Then I'm going to do the front as well. So I'm going to align that, zoom in on the front edge, and I'm going to align that right there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is, I might be getting a little bit ahead here. Let's see, am I getting ahead? So I locked that. Okay. Let's just go ahead and follow what they have here for now. So I'm going to go to the left side elevation view. And then we want to align the top of this to the underside of the shelf. So we're going to click on the underside of the shelf right there. And then we're going to click on the top side of our family. You're going to need to hit Tab a couple times to get to it. I'm going to make sure that I'm not clicking on the actual shelf extrusion. So you want to hit Tab until it says bracket, like it does there. And then that's going to align it, and then you want to snap that right there. Let's see. Then I'm going to switch back to the top view. Let's go to reference level. And I want to find this temporary dimension. So we want to click on the bracket, click on this witness line here on the temporary dimension that pops up, and hold and drag that to the left until you hit your reference plane over here. Then we want to set this dimension to be 4 inches. And once we do that, let's go ahead and click on this button to make this a real dimension. And after we've done that, go ahead and click on that dimension and then click lock to lock that in place. So now we've created a constraint, which is keeping the bracket always 4 inches from this edge, no matter where you move this. Okay, so if we flex this and move it around, it's always going to stay at 4 inches from this edge here. Let's see. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to mirror this across, click on the bracket and then mirror it. And then we're going to put that constraint in on this side as well. So we're going to click on the witness line here, move that to the right. Then we're going to click on our little dimension button to make it a permanent dimension, select the dimension, and then click on the lock. So now that should be locked in place. And we can actually test this to make sure it's working. So if we go to our family types dialog up here, and we go to our width parameter, if I change this to, let's say, 5 feet, I should see my brackets moving out in either direction, staying 4 inches away from the new edge location. So I'm going to click apply, and you can see that it did work. So let's switch this back to 4 feet. Okay. So now I'm going to save this file. And then I want to now go to the next section, which is called linking parameters between host and nested. So we want to select both of our brackets. So I'm just going to click on one, hold my control key, and then click on the other. And then in the properties palette, we want to associate our parameters. So we're going to go to the depth parameter first. So if you look at our dimensions here, our dimension instance parameters, we have these little buttons next to them, and it says associate family parameter. So what this is doing basically is you can take any parameter that is created within that nested family, and you can tie it to any parameter that is created within the family you're currently in. So right now we're in the shelf family, and the parameters that we've created within the shelf are depth, height, and width, okay? So basically what we can do is, instead of having these manually controlled for the bracket, we can say to the bracket family that we want that to be linked to the depth of the shelf. So basically what that means is the two are always going to be the same. So our depth basically right here is controlling this front and back edge. So right now, just watch what happens. I'm just going to do this without going forward in the instructions, just to illustrate the point here. So if I switch my depth now to be, this actually might work without me doing it. Okay, so it didn't work. It's a little bit broken. It worked for one of them, but it didn't work for this. So the edges still stayed the same. All right, so let's remember what that dimension was. That was 1 foot 4 inches, okay, originally. So remember how I locked the front and back edges of this one to those reference planes? So the reason that this one worked is because I did on that one. It did not work because I did on this one. So the ideal way to correct this is actually to associate the parameters. So if I reselect both of these and go back here, and under my depth, you can see that dimension went away. So it's just blank right now, and that's because I have two of them selected, but the depth is different for the two of them, so it doesn't know what to display. If I click on my associate family parameter button and now choose depth as what I want to tie it to and click OK, you can see that this one is now fixed. and this now becomes grayed out, and I cannot click on it and edit it. I can click on these ones and change them if I want, but this one, since I have now tied it to the depth parameter within the shelf family, it's just going to always update to be exactly what the shelf is, which is really nice. So if there's something you know is always going to be the same, like in this case, for example, you can just link the two of them together so that whenever they update their size, they're always going to be in the right position. So if I switch this back down now to 1 foot 4 inches as my depth, you can see the bracket flexes and it moves and stays in the exact right spot. Okay. We can also do this with the other parameters, but in this case, we probably aren't, I don't believe. Yeah, so we're not going to do it for the other ones. I mean, you could, but the reason you wouldn't want to do that, obviously, I'm just going to show you why, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if I did that for thickness and I tied that to like width, you're going to see that it's totally going to mess this up. So if I click OK, see now it's trying to make the width of the bracket the same width as the extrusion, which is not good. So now my bracket is like way wide. So it wouldn't make sense to do it for thickness, but it would make sense to do it for depth, because we know that any bracket we place here, we want it to be the same depth as the actual shelf. Okay, so we're just linking those together so that it just does it automatically for us, and it keeps everything nice and consistent when we change the dimensions. All right, so now let's go ahead and resave that family. And then we're going to move on to the next section, which is creating family types on page 26. Okay. So their instructions say, when you get tired of manually editing the values of each field when you flex, it's time to create some family types. So what we've been doing now is manually changing all of these values, but now we're going to set up our own family types, which is our own like preset values. Okay, and that's I covered this in the previous lecture, so if you need more info on that, you can go back and watch that to refresh yourself. But what we're going to do is start by saving this file. So we're going to go to File and then Save As Family, and we're going to call this one Shelf with brackets. Okay, and another thing while I'm on here in this dialog box, I think I've talked about this in other courses, but if you get all of these duplicates, this is nice because it always gives you a backup in case you're going to lose some of your content. You always have a backup to go to, but it can be annoying. So to get around that, click on Options, and then where it says Maximum Backups, just set that to 1. I'm not sure if it'll let you do 0, but I mean, it's always good to have at least 1 backup, so just click on 1, and then it's not going to create like a million versions of all these files. So then just click Save. All right, so after we save that, we want to go up here to our family types box and open that again. And then we're going to create a few different preset family types. So to do that, again, we're going to click on New Type. And then our first type that we're going to make is going to be 48 inches by 16 inches. And then we're going to click on OK. And then we're going to, again, make a new type. And we're going to call this one 54 inches by 20 inches. Click OK. And we're going to change the width here. We're going to change the width here to be our 4 foot 6 inches. Click Apply, and we're going to change the depth to be 1 foot 8 inches. 8 inches. Click Apply. Okay. So now we have these two different versions. This is what we started out with, 48 by 16. And when we select that and click Apply, you can see it updates automatically like so. So that's what we wanted to be doing. So leave it at 48 by 16, click Apply, and then click OK to close out of your Family Types editor. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next section, which is assemble a complex family. So let's see. So they're saying we could have loaded we could actually just take this file now and we could load it into the project and just use it as a shelf with brackets like on a wall or something. But we're actually going to be using this as part of a bigger family. All right, so what we want to do is, let me see here. All right, we're going to be opening another file here. So give me a minute to get that opened. All right, so here I am in that family file that I said to open up. This is also going to be posted to Canvas. I haven't posted it yet, but you should see this file upload to Canvas when you're watching this video. So this file is called 201 Shelving Unit A. So it basically just looks like this. It's got a few reference planes and dimensions and stuff already in it, but it's got this base and this little extrusion, this vertical piece already in there. So we're just going to be using this going forward. So make sure you download that and you open that file. So the first thing that we want to do when we open this is click on the Family Categories and Parameters button, which is this little one with the manila folder next to it. And then we're going to, let's see. Okay, we're just making an observation here. So previously, we've been working in a family that was a generic model. So if you look through this list here, these are basically all the different categories that Revit uses to categorize things. Categorize things. Not the best explanation, but these are all the categories in Revit. Okay, so what we've been using has been a generic model. So you can associate this just basically to all the templates we've been using. And these family categories are important because they help us to control things like visibility and also for like scheduling and stuff. You have to make sure that everything is made with the correct categories so that it works correctly for your purposes in the project. All right, so usually when you're nesting components, all the things that are being nested will usually be just like a generic model. Okay, and then after you create those, you're going to be loading them into the main family, which is essentially what we're in right now. And that family will have the actual category you're going to use in the project. So we know that this shelving unit is going to be a piece of furniture, so it is set within this family as a piece of furniture. All right. Okay, then just click OK to get out of that. So now we're going to be nesting the shelf with the brackets into this family. So to do that, we want to switch back to our shelf with brackets. So I'm going to close out of my inactive windows. Then I'm going to hit Control and the Tab key to switch back to my shelf with the brackets, and I'm going to load this into project and close. I'm going to select the 201 Shelving Unit A family and then click OK. And then when it asks me if I want to save changes, I'm just going to say yes. And now you can see I have loaded that into this family. So it's asking me if I want to place it. So let's go ahead and go to the plan view, which is this reference level. And I'm going to go up here to create and click on component. And then I'm going to place a instance of the shelf with the brackets down here below the actual shelving unit itself, down here somewhere. And you should just see it right there below after you place it. Then we're going to use the align tool, and we're going to align the center of the shelf to the center of the host family. Let's see here, back of the shelf. Oh, okay. So let's go here to, let's click on the shelf, go here to the align tool, click on the middle reference plane, and then hover over the middle of the family, and you should see this little blue line up here. Click on that and then lock it so that it stays centered. Then let's go to an elevation view that shows the side, so not that one, probably the left view. And we're going to use our align tool again. Click on this line right here, and then hover over the backside of the shelf with the bracket, and then click, and we're going to align that right there. Let's go back to our floor plan view, and you should see what it did. Maybe it would be better to view it in a 3D view. Basically just stretched the family to align with the backside of this here. So we're going to need to fix that, obviously. Let's see. Let me see what this does. Okay, that might be what we need to do. I'm just going to follow what they're saying really quickly. Select the shelf, and then we're going to set the offset. Let's see, I'm assuming they mean offset from level. Let's try offset from host. Let's set that to 2 feet. There we go. So set offset from host to be 2 feet. And then, okay, let's switch back to the left view. Okay, let's just align the front edge to this reference plane. So we're going to click on our align tool, click on this front reference plane, and then click the front edge of the family. You want to get that line like this right here, and then click the align tool to lock that. There we go. All right, switch back to the, actually I guess we want to stay in the left view. All right, that should be correct. The next thing that we need to do is create the parametric array. So when you create a array in Revit, it does not have to be just a one-time copy command. You can leave it as parametric. This means we can adjust the quantity later and update the geometry. So an array is basically several components in a series, and we can set this so that it'll allow us to control the spacing of the shelving and also how many shelves we want to place within the file. All right. So what we're going to do is now, starting in our left view, we're going to select the shelf, and then we're going to click on the array button. So the array button is this button right here. All right. Okay, so now we need to change a few settings. So we want to verify this is set to a linear array. Verify group and associate is checked. And then we want to change the number right here to be 4 instead of 2. And then set this to be last, and then click on the constrain box right here and make sure that is selected. Okay, so after we've done that, we want to click a point near the shelf. So it doesn't really matter. I'm going to click over here on the left side. Then we want to drag up, and we want to set this to be 4 foot 6 inches. And then we want to hit enter. All right, so what that has done is, since we selected last as our option, we said basically the dimension that we're typing in, that's going to be the dimension of the last one in the series. And then what we want to do is basically between the first and the last one evenly space 2 more so that we have a total of 4 of them. If we had left this as second, that 4 foot 6 inch dimension that we had typed in, that would be just telling it to make 4 of them and space them 4 foot 6 inches apart. All right. So by doing this as last, we can control where the highest one goes. All right. So now that we have done that, we're going to, let's just click off of this for now. And then, let's see. All right, let's just click on the top one here and then click on the actual array itself. And you can even do things like change the number and stuff. So if I were to click on that and change it to 3, you'll see it's just doing 3 of them now evenly spaced. So I'm going to leave that at 4. And then what we're going to do is actually tie a parameter to this so that we can control this parametrically through our family types, just like we did with the dimensions. So let's see what we got to do here. Select the array dimension. Maybe I missed a step. No? Oh, right here. So we got to add a label to this. So when you want to add a label to an array, you got to do it right here. Click the drop down, add parameter. Then we're going to call this number of shelves. We're going to make this an instance parameter. And we're going to group this under graphics. All right, so the grouping is basically just going to organize this within the family types box that drops down, and it's going to put it under a section called graphics. Then we're going to click on OK. Then we're going to open the family types editor. And as you can see, we have a section called graphics, and it says number of shelves 4. And we can change this to actually flex it. So let's go ahead and make this 5 and then click apply. And you can see it added a 5th shelf in between, but it kept the top one where it was. All right, let's set that back to 4. Click apply and then click OK. All right. So now we're down to the section on page 29 that says add a flip control. All right, so add a flip control provides a quick and easy way to flip or rotate a family during or after placement. Let's add one to our shelving unit family. Okay, so let's make sure that the plan view is active. Switch back to reference level. And then we're going to, on the create tab, click on the control button. So create, control, right there. What we want to do is click the double vertical button. So that is right here, double vertical. And then beneath the plan geometry, we're going to place it right here. So, oh shoot, don't click twice. Let me see if I can move that. Yeah, so if you place that and then click escape a couple times, you can click and drag this around. I'm just going to center mine below the geometry, sort of like on this reference plane, but you can put it anywhere you really want to. So basically this is just a toggle switch so that if we want to flip this around, it's going to do so, which is pretty cool once we're in the project. All right, so now let's see, on the ribbon, click modify. Okay, we don't have to worry about step 4 because we just did that. So go ahead and just click the save button to save the family. And now we're on the part that says load into sandbox. Okay, so we're going to actually load this in and test it out and see how it works. So go up here to load into project. And that's going to load it into our sandbox file here. If you still have these boxes, you can just select them to delete them. No, I do not want to restart. All right. So there's my shelving unit. And you can see it looks pretty good. Let me switch to a shaded view so we can see a little bit better maybe. Maybe realistic. Okay. So you can see we have a few parameters here. We have a width and a depth as instances that we can control. So let's actually make a couple copies of these. All right, so let's copy this. And then on this one, let's make the width 5 feet and the depth 3 feet. And then this one should update. Okay, so we still have a couple things that we need to fix, it looks like. So this is why we always want to test things out to make sure that they're working correctly, because clearly that is still a little bit buggy. Okay, but now we know what we need to fix so that we can fix it. So what I'm going to do is toggle back to the family, and I'm going to see if I can fix those issues. So the first issue I noticed, let's see here, is that, oh shoot. Okay, our shelves are not staying aligned. The edges of our shelves are not staying aligned with the edges of the shelving unit itself. So we're going to have to fix that. So to fix that, let's go to the floor plan view, maybe. Actually, no. What we're going to do is, let's go to the 3D view. I always work better in 3D. I'm going to select this bottom one by tabbing to it and then clicking it and then doing the same for all of them. So hover over it and then click tab, and then click the control key and then select the shelf, and just do that till you have all of them selected. And then let's see, can we tie the, no, it's not going to let me tie it. Let me think a minute here. Okay, so what you're going to want to do, click on the bottom shelf, click on edit group, and that's going to take you to this sort of yellow screen where we're editing this actual array. Then click on the shelf, and then we're going to go here to width, and I'm going to tie the width to be the same as the width of the family. So click on that to associate the two, and then let's click on finish. And let me think here. One more thing that I want to do. Well, let's see if this fixes it. Let's click on edit group again, and then use our align tool. Let's switch to the left view. Use our align tool and click on the reference plane right here and align that to the back side of the bracket family. Let's do that first, and then we'll get the edge of the shelf itself, if it lets me. There we go, lock that there. And then let's see if that fixes that problem of the shelves being misaligned. Okay, so now that we've done that, that looks good. Let's reload it into the project. And then it's going to ask us, do we want to overwrite the existing version? Just click overwrite the existing version and its parameter values. And hopefully, let's see. So that definitely fixed the width issue. So the shelves are staying in the correct position width-wise, but their depth is not working correctly. So let's toggle back. And okay, let's go back into the edit group of that shelf, and I'm just going to tie the depth to be the same as the depth of the shelving unit and see if that fixes it. Let's remove constraints. Okay. That is not quite doing what we want. Let's undo that. You think here, why would that be? Why would that be doing that? Okay. All right, so I figured out what we need to do. It's going to be a little bit complicated, but basically what we need to do is let's go back here to our left view, and then let's select these three shelving unit pieces here and delete those out. And then click on our bottom one, and we're going to go to the ungroup button and click on that. All right, then what we're going to do is create an additional dimension that I don't believe they do in the instructions. This is going to control the depth of the shelves themselves. So to do this, I'm going to go up here to annotate, aligned. I'm going to create a dimension from this reference plane to this front one, and then I'm going to drag it up, and I'm going to tie this to a parameter. So you can go up here to create parameter, and I've already done this. Actually, no, I haven't done this. We're going to call this one shelf depth. Then we're going to click on instance, and then we're going to click OK. So now you should see it says shelf depth equals 1 foot 4 5/8 inches. So then what we want to do is click on our shelf, and then we're going to go over here to depth, and we're going to tie that to the shelf depth that we made here, like that. Okay. Then what we need to do is put in a little bit of a formula to make this flex correctly. So we're going to go here to the family types box then, and over here where it says formula, we're going to add in a little formula to control how this parameter works. So basically we want this shelf depth parameter to move in conjunction with the actual depth of the shelf itself. But the depth, if we look at what they have in here, the depth starts at the front of the shelf and it ends in the middle of this back panel. So there's an extra 1 3/8 inches from this reference plane to this reference plane that we need to account for. All right. So basically what we have to do is go here to where it says shelf depth, and we need to type in, and also this is case sensitive, so make sure you type it correctly, depth minus 1 space 3/8 inches, and then click apply, and then click OK. Then we're going to switch back to our left hand view, and we're going to recreate that array that we did previously. So let's click on the bracket. Let's go up here to the array button. Let's make sure this is set to 4. Click over here on the left side, drag up 4 foot 6 inches, and then that looks good. The last thing we have to do then is click our align tool. Click on this reference plane right here, and then find the back side of the top shelf with brackets, and that should be this line right here where it says shelf with brackets, weak reference back. Click on that and then lock it. Okay, and then ideally that should fix our problem. So now if I go here to the family types and I flex the depth of this to like 3 feet and click apply, you can see that the shelves stay in the right spot and they move and they're 3 feet. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to click save to save my project, and then I'm going to load that into project, and I'm going to overwrite the existing one, and there we go. That is exactly what we want. Okay, so that was kind of annoying. That was a little bit of a headache figuring out, but I think we should be back on track. So make sure that yours is doing that and flexing in every direction correctly. So we have it flexing depth-wise correctly. Let's test the width, 4 feet. That's correct. And yeah, depth is correct. Number of shelves, let's try 5. Come on. Oh, we have to reassociate number of shelves. Go back into family, Forgot to do that. So back on the left side, you want to just click here and then make sure you get your array again. Click on the array and then go here to label and then click on that number of shelves parameter that we created earlier and then save it, load it back into project, overwrite, and then if we click it again, there you can see it updated, and we should be able to now control this. So if I go like 3, there we go, 3 and 4, back to what we had originally. Perfect. That is doing exactly what it needs to be doing. If we go to the floor plan view and we click on the shelf, you can see our little flip control. Let's see if that's okay. There's our flip control right there in the front. If we click on that, that's going to flip it back and forth, so that's working correctly. And since we set up this stuff as instance parameters, we can actually click and drag on these grips to manually resize this if we want to, which is pretty cool. So you can drag it and make it bigger left and right, and you can make the depth bigger as you want it. So yeah, everything seems to be working correctly. All right, so now let's go back to our instructions that we're following. I'm going to minimize, I'm going to close all my inactive views, go back to my family, and now we're going to be on this one that says bonus 1, one-sided or two-sided. Okay, so what we're going to do is make sure we're in our left elevation view, and then we're going to select the base shelf extrusion and the lowermost shelf in the array. So we're going to click on this extrusion right here, I believe. Let's see. No, we're going to click on the base shelf extrusion, so that's this. And then we're going to mirror the shelf right here. So I believe if we click on the wanting us to do the model group, select the shelf with brackets, okay, yeah, let's click on this, and then let's click on this shelf in the group, and then let's mirror it over the center. Okay, then we're going to click on this shelf here, and we're going to go to ungroup just to bring it back to a normal shelf. Then what we need to do is okay, so we're going to apply a visibility parameter to this. So let's click on both of these again, make sure they're selected. And over here on the left side, you'll see these like visibility graphics controls. We're going to click on this button here to associate a family parameter. And then we're going to click the add new parameter button, and we're going to call this parameter gondola unit. And then we're going to make sure that is a type parameter, and we're going to group this under graphics. Let's see. We're going to click on edit tooltip now, and we're going to type determines if the unit is one-sided or two-sided. All right, then we're gonna click OK, and then we're gonna click OK a couple more times to confirm that. All right, so then you should see the small equals sign right here, and that just means that the family associated correctly. Then what we're going to do is we're going to recreate our array that we did previously. So let's see. Let's go to array. And then, well, let me think here. I might need to recreate the shelf depth. Okay, let's just try arraying this. Whoops. We'll click it and then we'll go to array, and then we're going to set this to 4, and then we're going to go up 4 foot 6 inches, and then we're going to click on the array button and we're going to tie this to the number of shelves. And then I'm going to let's see, let's click on the top one, and let me see if I can get that. Yeah, so let's go to align, click on this reference plane right here, and then align that to the back side of the top shelf. So it should be this reference that you're seeing right here, and then we're going to lock that like so. Now, I'm not totally sure this is going to flex correctly, but we'll test it out. Number of shelves. Let's see. We'll just go into the create family types section of the instructions on page 32, and then we'll try flexing everything to make sure it's working correctly. Let's go ahead and open the family types dialog, and then we're going to create a new family type, and we're going to call this one wall unit. Click OK, and then we're going to uncheck this box that says gondola unit, and we're going to click apply. Then we're going to create a new type, and we're going to call this one gondola unit. And then we're going to recheck that box right here. So basically what this is doing is we assigned this side a visibility parameter, and that is basically controlling these showing up by turning that checkbox on and off. So if we have it off, it's just going to go away and it's going to make it look like it's a one-sided unit, but if we have it checked on, it's going to turn on both sides. So then we're just going to click on OK. And then what we want to do is go down here and find our preview visibility. Turn that on. And then if we switch between our family types, we should be able to see if it's working. So if I switch to wall unit, as you can see, half of it went away. And if I switch to gondola unit, it comes back. Okay. See what else we need to look at. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to load this back into the project now. I'm going to save it first. Load it into the project. And I'm going to overwrite everything. Okay, and then let's click on this one and switch it to the wall unit to make sure that looks good. That does look good. And then this one, I'm going to flex the dimensions to make sure that I'm not going to get any weird errors or anything going on. So let's try 4 feet maybe. Okay, so that's good. Depth, let's try 4 feet as well. Okay, so that's what I thought. So we're gonna have to fix that. All right. So to fix this, let's see. Let's repeat the process we did before. So let's highlight all these. Let's delete them. let's click this. Let's ungroup it. Let's create another parameter. So annotate aligned. We're going to click on this reference plane and then this reference plane. Drag up, align it with this other dimension. And then we're going to call this, we're going to create a new parameter. We're going to call this shelf depth 2. Make that an instance. Click OK. Reference planes are over constrained. Huh. All right, let me think about this for a minute. All right, so here's what we need to do. Let's delete that dimension out that we put in. Then let's just grab this reference plane and drag it to the left a little bit. Okay, when it does that, you can see things get a little bit broken here on this side. So let's use the align tool then. Align this reference plane to the front of that shelf and then lock it. And then we're going to align this reference plane to the back side of the shelf. So we might have to hit tab a couple times till we get this line right here that looks like that. And then lock. Okay, once we've done that, click on the shelf, create a new array. You can just drag this up 4 foot 6 inches again. And then when we're on this part right here, go to, actually just click once, select the actual array dimension itself, go to label, and then click on number of shelves again to tie that back to number of shelves. And now if we grab this reference plane and drag it out a little bit, it should flex correctly. Okay, so it still is being a little bit weird. So let's click on this top one now, use the align tool, click on this reference plane, and then find the back side of that family. So right there, and then align it and then lock it. Now let's try dragging this one more time. There we go. So now if we move it in or out, it's still moving the correct distance. Okay, so that's what we wanted. So that should be correct. Let's just, yeah, so everything looks good there. Let's go here into the family types box. Go to where we created that shelf 2 depth or shelf depth 2 parameter, and let's just delete that out of there. That doesn't really mean anything anymore. And then click apply and then OK, and then that should be good. So I'm going to load it into the project. Override existing version and parameter values. And let's see if that updates. There we go. And now if I go to my floor plan, I should be able to just move that however I want. Perfect. Okay, cool. All right. So let's go back to the family now. And we're going to continue on to the next portion of this. So now we're on bonus number 2, and this is tweaking the graphics. Okay. Go back to the project, it says. All right, so we're back in the project. Let's go to the level 1 floor plan view. And then, let's see, notice the double line at the front edge of the shelf. One of these lines is the edge of the base of the shelf, and the other is the upper shelves. Oh, okay. Okay, because of the way we did it, that makes the second part not too relevant. So we don't have to worry about that too much. So we're not going to worry about bonus number 2. Because I just made it even with the front edge of the actual base itself, so you don't see that double line, which is fine. If I were to go back to that family though, I'll kind of like show you what this is meaning. Basically, if you select these components, you can control their visibility within the project. So if you click on one of these shelves and then go to visibility graphic overrides, you can control the way that is displaying in the floor plan. And that's useful for certain things that you want to show in the plan and things that you don't want to show in the plan. So if for some reason you did not want this shelf to show up in the floor plan, you could deselect it here and it would not appear. Or let's say you don't want that to show up in an elevation view for some reason. So if I were to uncheck the elevation views and then finish that and then load it in, and also you don't need to do this. I'm just demonstrating the point here. Oh, it's not gonna let me anyway, but you get the idea. It hides it in an elevation view, so you can see it's invisible in the family now. But don't worry about that. All right, let's see what we got for. What do we have for bonus 3? Adding materials. Okay, so this is something we are going to have to do. So materials can be assigned to the elements in the family, just like elements in a project, to give them more realism. Okay. So we're going to want to edit the actual shelf family. So if you're in this elevation view, go ahead and just click tab and then click on one of these shelves and then click on edit family. So we're going to add a material for the shelf here, and we're going to add a material for the brackets. It looks like they only did one for the shelf, but I really want us to do it for both of them. So the way that we do this is, let's click on the shelf and then go over here to the left and then go to material, and we're going to add a new material. So we're going to call this shelf, and let's make this let's just do this as a type parameter. That'll be fine. I explained the difference between type and instance in the previous video, so if you want to go back and watch that, you can. So we'll click on that, click OK. So now you can see that is tied to that parameter. Then I want to click on both of these brackets, and I want to do the same thing. I want to find the... Oh, yeah, that's its own family. We want to click on the brackets. Okay. Click on one of the brackets. Click on Edit Family. So now we're a layer deeper. We are into the bracket family. Click on the bracket geometry itself. Click on Material. Click on this to associate a material. Click on New Parameter. Call this Bracket. And then leave that as a type. Click OK. And now you can see that is associated. Then we're going to go to Load into Project. We're going to uncheck this. We're going to check Shelf with Brackets. Click OK. And then we're going to override existing version and its parameter values. Okay, so now when you click on it in here, you can see we should get, if we go to Edit Type, a bracket material. But what we have to do, this is where it gets a little bit complicated when you're dealing with nested families. We have to associate it again to a new parameter within this family, because if we don't, we won't be able to control it in the final, like, full family that has everything in it, okay? So to do that, you have to click on Associate Family Parameter, create a new parameter within the Shelf with Bracket family, and then call this bracket. Okay, leave that as a type. Now we have another bracket inside of this family here. All right. So now what that lets us do, since we did that, when we click on the family types here, we get shelf and bracket. I'm just going to undo what I did. You can leave what you did, but just to show you, see, when I undo what I just did, that bracket goes away and we can't control it here within family types. So that's the reason why we create a new family type or a new parameter, and we tie the parameter from the actual bracket family to it, so that when we go here to family types, we have control over that within this family. Okay, so we just have to link it all the way through within each family. I know that's probably kind of complicated and maybe hard to wrap your head around, but anytime you load a family into another family, if you have a material parameter, if you want to control it within that new family, you have to link the parameters all the way through to the new one. Okay, so really quickly, I'm just going to redo that, and then you can see again get control over the shelf bracket material. Okay, so now what we have to do is load this family with the shelf and the brackets into the shelving unit family. Click OK. We're going to override the existing version and parameter values. Okay. Then when we do that, what we have to do is click Tab, click on our generic model shelf with brackets right there. Then again, we have to repeat the previous process. We have to go here to Edit Type, and you can see we have the shelf and the bracket. All right, keep your window open. Keep this open. When I open up the family types within the actual shelving unit on my screen here, you can see we have no material controls. Okay, and this is just to illustrate the point even further. There's no way I can, when I load this into my project, control the material of those shelves and brackets, right? So again, I have to be linking my parameter through all the way. Okay, so with your dialog still open, you should be right here. We're going to repeat the process we did previously in the prior family. We're going to click on the associate button. We're going to create a new parameter for bracket. Just call it the exact same thing. Leave it as a type. Click OK. Click OK. You can see now it's grayed out and it's tied to that parameter. Do the same thing for shelf. Click OK. Click OK. And then click Apply. Now that we've done that, when you go back here to family types, you can see those parameters appear and we can control them. All right. Then what we're going to have to do is also add in parameter or material parameters for these bases and also this back piece. So what I'm going to do is click on both of these extrusions. I'm going to go here to material, and I'm going to click on that button, and then I'm going to create a new material parameter. Leave that as a type, and then let's call this base. Click OK, click OK, and then we'll do one more for this piece of geometry in the middle. So just make sure you zoom in and can get it. Select it, go to material, create a new parameter, call this one back, or shelf back maybe. Be a little bit easier to understand. Click OK. And now when we go to family types, we should see 4 different parameters under materials and finishes. We're going to click Apply and then just click OK. And then let's load this into the project. Override existing version. Okay, So nothing has changed because we haven't applied any materials. I'm going to delete this one out. So let's test this and make sure that the material parameters actually work. So to do that, I'm going to go here to Edit Type. I'm going to select that, click Edit Type. You can see all my material parameters have appeared. Now what I want to do is assign some materials to this. So we're going to click on the little spot here and then click the 3 dots. Then we're going to create a new material. And I'm just going to create some dumb, simple color materials just to make sure this is working. So let's right click this and rename it. I'm going to call this one red. Actually, I'm going to call this 0/red so it appears at the front of the list. And then I'm going to go to appearance and I'm going to change the appearance color to some red color. All right. And then I'm going to click apply. I'm going to duplicate this, call this one 0/blue. And since I put that 0 in the front, you can see it kept it at the front of the list, which makes it easier just to edit these. Let's just choose blue there, click apply. All right, duplicate. We'll call this 0/green. Okay. So you can see a problem here, and this is a good learning moment. So every time you duplicate a material, if you don't want it to do this, where every time I change this, it's tied back to the original and it makes all of them blue, you have to make sure that this little hand here says 0. So right now it says 2, and that means it's linked to 2 other materials. So this green is linked to blue and it's linked to red. So every time you duplicate a material, you have to make sure you go over here and you have to click duplicate this asset and make sure that will then update that to 0. So let's do that on all of these. So that says 0 and there, that now says 0. So all of them say 0. So now if I switch the color back, it should not affect the other ones. Click apply. That stays blue. Switch this to green. Click apply. That stays blue. That stays green. That stays red. Okay. Then we're going to do one more. Duplicate it. And we'll call this one 0/yellow. Duplicate the asset to make it a 0. And then switch it to yellow. Okay. So now I'm just going to assign these to all of them. So I'll do this one as 0/red, 0/blue, 0/green. And then give it a moment. Click OK and then click off of it. And as you can see, everything changed colors correctly. So that's what you want. Each component of this shelving unit has its own unique color. Okay, and it's only going to appear like that if you have this set to realistic. If you have this set to shaded or consistent colors, it's not going to look like that. So make sure you set your viewport to realistic to confirm that the material parameters are working correctly. So then you can go ahead and let's just save this sandbox file. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to end this video here because this one's getting pretty long, and then I'm going to go to another video to wrap up the rest of the assignment.